All right, it's really not easy being a human. So this is the open-hearted empath survival guide. To me, one of the most important things we can do individually, but also collectively, is to learn to open our hearts more in the world. Not only does this bring more care and compassion and empathy into the world, but it also helps us have a more full, rich, beautiful experience of our lives. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to open your heart to the world? But there's some very good reasons why you wouldn't. The first being that you feel a lot more, and a lot of us are already overwhelmed with our feelings. And so I'm going to talk about how we can learn to be with larger feelings, the four key skills that I use all the time, that I teach all the time, to allow ourselves to be more open-hearted, have more full, beautiful experiences, but to also feel pain, to feel suffering more, but to have it hurt less. And this is a very weird idea, maybe, that we feel pain more, but it hurts less. And I'll get into that as well. So there's really these two polarities, these two roads we can go down in life. And one is to protect ourselves from the world. And we all do this. This is a very natural way to react to a crazy, chaotic, dangerous, unpredictable world. And it's okay to shut down, to kind of turtle, to close yourself off. But the problem is this becomes a deeply habituated way of being. And then we close ourselves to everything, including the love and beauty in our own lives. So the real thing I'm trying to convey here is how we can open in a safe way to have a more full, beautiful experience of our lives, and also to deal with all the feelings that come with that. Now, I'm just going to go over these four skills quickly here, and then I'm going to do future videos going into depth on each one. So if this interests you, if this is your vibe, just stay tuned to make sure you're following or subscribed. So the first skill, which is the most common theme on my YouTube channel, is equanimity. It's the idea that we can be with whatever's happening, that things don't need to be any different. So we're often trying to negotiate our experience. We're trying to resist discomfort, and we're trying to create more or cling to pleasurable experiences. But the reality is when we close to discomfort, we are contracting around it, and we are actually making that feeling kind of more stuck in our being. If we want to move through feelings, if we don't want them to linger and last in us, if we want to feel more open and free and fluid, then we need to learn equanimity, to be more open to our feelings, to accept each moment as it is, to not really need anything to be any different. This is really what we're practicing in meditation. It's like one of the core attentional skills we're developing in meditation, this way of being with our experience, of relaxing around it, of letting it just work through us unobstructed. The thing with equanimity is you get so much better at processing your feelings as you practice this. And people often have big breakthroughs on meditation retreats where they just go into this deeply equanimous zone where everything just feels totally good, and no matter what's happening, there's this deep okayness that's resonant in a deep part of our being. That being said, just practicing equanimity in the moment, just right now, just tuning into what you're feeling and just validating that it's okay, that you can feel this. Just taking that moment right now. That usually brings a little bit of relief or a little less suffering. Sometimes the feelings will come up big. That just means there's a lot to be processed. And as you process the backlog of feelings you've been carrying, you feel more open, more clear, and more capable. You have a higher capacity to feel whatever's happening in the moment, and the feelings don't last as long. They just move right through you. So that's the magic of equanimity. I have a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel and meditations, so you can check those out if you want to dive deeper into that. Skill number 2 is compassion. And it's really interesting that compassion has been shown to keep us from over empathizing, getting empathetic burnout. There's a term called compassion fatigue that they use, especially in hospitals or with healthcare workers. Compassion fatigue is actually empathy fatigue. It's actually when we are feeling what the person in front of us is feeling, and that starts to stress us out. But they did many tests based on essentially these Buddhist meditations where you actively cultivate compassion. And when you actively cultivate compassion, when you are intentionally trying to care for someone, cultivating this goodness within yourself and pouring that out onto them, you're actually less empathetic, or at least the feelings of the other person don't penetrate into you as deeply. It's with the compassion we cultivate, we can hold their feeling without identifying with it, without it becoming a part of our experience. We still feel it, but we don't take it on so much. And that's the beauty of compassion. So if you are ever stressed by someone, if someone's stressing out in front of you, if you work with people who are stressed, the best thing you could do to protect your own energy from empathizing with and taking on that stress is to cultivate compassion. And equanimity is like obviously a deep complement to this. To cultivate compassion, just think of someone you love or a place that you love or something that kind of lights up your heart. Feel the feeling and then pour it out to the person in front of you. Then to add equanimity, you just let the experience be what it is. You don't try to change anything. You don't judge what's happening. You just let the feelings happen. You let them move through you in both directions. Okay, the third skill, and this is a huge one in Buddhism, is called non-identification. And this just means that you start to see that your experience isn't actually you. We have this tendency to identify with our experience, to think, oh, when you feel, sad or worthless, that you are sad or worthless. But those are just feelings. Those are not who you are. And this practice of non-identification can go very deep. On one level, we can just not identify with the feelings of others or the pain of the world. Doesn't mean we don't feel it. And this is where everyone gets, not everyone, but some people get like this non-identification wrong, is they think it means like creating more distance or like moving back from the experience. But it's actually the opposite, where we embrace the experience more fully because we realize it's not us. We're not so threatened by it. So if somebody else is, feeling a lot of stress, we might attune to that stress, but we realize that's not our stress. We're not identifying with the experience, even though we're feeling it. And the fact that we don't identify with it allows it not to linger, allows it not to become like a part of our being. But we could also apply non-identification to our own feelings, right? So first you identify, is this mine or is this someone else's? And if it's not yours, it's a lot easier not to take it on. But if it is your feeling, if it is about something that happened to you, if it's triggering an old unprocessed experience, then you can still practice non-identification in the sense that it's just an experience. It's just passing sensations through your body and everything is just moving all the time. There is no permanent thing. So you simply notice sensations are sensations, feelings are feelings, thoughts are thoughts, and none of it is actually you. And that helps you let go of it a bit more. Very practically speaking, you can separate the feeling from the story, right? So if we have this feeling always that like we're not good enough, then that feeling is valid. We actually want to be equanimous with that feeling. We want to allow ourselves to feel the feeling, but we want to examine the story. If I feel like I'm not good enough, does that mean I'm actually not good enough? Am I building an identity around it? And that's where we want to rewrite the story, that I can feel like I'm not good enough, but that doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. It just means that's the feeling I have right now due to circumstances in life. Fundamentally, we are not our feelings, we are our awareness. And the more you can identify with the awareness, with what is experiencing the feelings, not the content of your awareness, not the feelings themselves, that frees us to just feel things more fully, be less afraid of them because we know they're not really us, or they're not like permanent fixtures. They're just passing waves in an ocean. Okay, and the fourth big survival skill here is awakening the body. And this can look different for different people. But the idea is that our body often gets really contracted, the energy gets very stagnant, and then it's a lot more difficult to process feelings. They kind of get stuck or lodged in us and they start to feel very permanent. But learning to kind of wake up the energy in your body can really help to get the feelings moving. For example, in Goenka style of Vipassana meditation, the main practice is to do this body scan where you're just bringing your awareness into each part of your body and feeling into the sensations there. And that starts to awaken your body and the natural intelligence of your body. And then you start to go into this process that in Buddhism they call purification, which is basically processing all of your old stuff that you've been carrying, all your old unprocessed trauma, essentially. So that's one way of awakening the body, is to do this body scan practice. But what I find a lot more like direct and helpful and effective immediately is to do body tapping, is to tap on your body and then feel into the sensations. So through the tapping, you're actually waking up the sensations, and then you just feel in to the sensations, the kind of resonant tingle afterwards. And you do your best to bring more awareness into all parts of your body, paying special attention to areas that may feel blocked or like more stagnant, that have less sensation. Now, on top of these techniques, just any type of exercise is also really great. I've been doing like these HIIT exercises lately that have been like really great. And I found like the kind of interval cardio stuff to be very activating, especially when you're doing new movements your body doesn't normally do. It really opens a lot energetically. Stretching, yoga is obviously huge. There's so many ways, but the real thing is to learn what works for you. One, what do you enjoy doing? So you'll actually do it. Sometimes I'll just like stretch in front of a movie for like 2 hours. Um, and then also what actually feels good in your body, what makes your body feel better. I really, really like Qigong practices as well. They do a lot of the body tapping, a lot of really gentle movements. There's so much out there. You can find stuff on YouTube. I'll do another video exploring some of my favorite practices. So stay tuned for that. And now a final note that opening ourselves up too fast can be really intense and really challenging, especially if we have unprocessed trauma, all that kind of stuff. So to take your time to learn to connect with the wisdom and the intelligence of your body and go at the rate that works for you. The best thing I've ever done in my life is to learn to connect with the wisdom of my body, to allow that wisdom to guide me in the practices that work for me, the practices that aren't right for me, all of that. And this is the real learning that happens through doing all this, is that we become our own inner authority. We don't have to look to outer authorities so much. We don't have to ask other people, what do we need to do? But we have the capacity to find that wisdom in ourselves. And that's like the best thing. That's really where your own growth journey truly takes off and really kind of compounds or goes exponential, where you really start making progress because you can feel what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So befriend your body, tune into the wisdom of the body, and good luck with it all.